I'm currently doing a series of love this month, talking about a lot of different types of love. Last week I did the love of friends and family, familial love, in WEBTOON. Now, I'll be honest, I was kind of struggling to find good WEBTOON series for the last video I was trying to do. I'm still trying to think of good WEBTOON series for my next 2 videos. However, today's is going to be difficult in a different way. Although the WEBTOON series I typically cover are more action-oriented, I think it's obvious how often WEBTOON themselves push romance, or the romance genre. About half of the WEBTOON series that are advertised on the main page are romance. So my problem isn't that I'm trying to find out which is the best one to talk about, it's that I have an overabundance of romance WEBTOON series. In fact, if you've been around long enough, last year I did a 2-part video looking into all of my romance WEBTOON series, separating them depending on their stereotype, looking for what the perfect relationship looks like. Granted, I couldn't find a perfect relationship because it doesn't exist. Each couple has its own pros and cons, and depending on who you are and what kind of person you're interested in, the perfect couple would be different. So instead of looking through my romance series, which are, wow, alright, 56, that's about 36% of my WEBTOONs. That's more than I thought. Anyways, the point is, instead of looking for the perfect couple, we're going to be looking through a bunch of different WEBTOON series, taking a look at their relationship, seeing why it works and what lessons we can learn from it. Granted, I'm well aware that not everything needs to be a lesson, but kind of assuming everything is the point of my channel. So, let's start out with a series we've already talked about, Lore Olympus. Lore Olympus is actually a great way to ease someone into reading WEBTOONs, as it's a story that many people will know in a new, fun, stylized kind of way. The highlight of the WEBTOON is, obviously, the relationship between Persephone and Hades. You might rightly assume that the goddess of spring and the god of the dead, he's not the god of death, he's the god of the dead, are as different as night and day. You know, spring and death are kind of opposites. However, I think this WEBTOON pushes a different concept. The WEBTOON constantly pushes how similar these two are. Sure, they do show their differences, how Persephone is typically more gracious and Hades is much more what you would assume the god of the dead is, but we do see a lot of their similarities. One of the biggest reasons their relationship takes so long to progress is due to Hades. Sure, he's a tad insecure, but we also hear that even if there was the smallest chance she did want me, she's still too young, and I'm still a complete mess. I don't want to ruin her with my emotional bullcrap. It wouldn't be fair. The sooner she can get away from me, the better. Sorry I censored that, but the point still stands. Hades believes himself to be too broken for Persephone. He doesn't believe it would be fair to get into a relationship as broken as he is with someone who he believes to be so pure and perfect. However, over time he starts to realize and notice their similarities. Sure, yeah, they both like dogs and can play chess and whatever. I'm more of a cat person, but I get it. However, where it really starts to get interesting is at this moment, where, while being a little stressed out, Persephone takes a little cloth fabric and starts to twist it, which immediately shocks Hades, making him think, she's like me. This leads the WEBTOON to start to show their similarities. Whether it be their temper, their hometown of Sicily, their powers, their trauma, eventually leading to the line, I don't know how to say that, but the line translates to, just like me, the same as me. I mentioned in my last video that both Hades and Persephone were trapped by their parents. Hades was literally trapped by his father. Meanwhile, Persephone was metaphorically trapped by her mother's expectations. Even when freed from that imprisonment, the effect still lingers. Like before, Hades is much more literal, having actual scars left on his father, but also having sorrow in his blood, meaning his trauma, which does relate to Persephone's struggles. Granted, not all of them, but we do hear Hades linked to them. I don't want to make any assumptions about what you're going through. It's just, when I found you, the way you were, it reminded me of how I used to react back then. I couldn't control my body or my powers either. What I mean is, when you're in it, it feels like it's gonna last forever. But it doesn't, and it will get better. This relationship was meant to establish a connection where people who've gone through similar difficulties connect with each other and help each other grow and get better. Notice that they're not dating yet, at least not in the current episodes. I don't know where the heck this shopping trip is going. But they're trying to get through their difficulties before getting into a relationship. However, they love each other so much that they're willing to help each other with their problems, since they've gone through a lot of the same things. Problematic parents, harmful relationships, difficult traumas. They've both gone through different but oddly similar things, and because of that, they can help each other. Persephone is much more open and willing to talk, meanwhile Hades has closed himself in. But Hades has the experience that Persephone doesn't have. Persephone provides Hades with a chance to talk about problems he's been holding in, and Hades provides Persephone with the hope that things will get better. Meanwhile, let's move on to an actual opposites attract relationship. One of my personal favorite types of relationships. Scorching Romance, a webtoon that's on the verge of ending, which surprised me. But setting aside that, Scorching Romance asks, what if we did the whole opposite attracts thing and cranked it up to 11? Amber Kim is a literally hot girl. Like, actually fiery. So much so that she doesn't need coats during the winter and actually just starts to straight up sweat. Meanwhile, Aspen Cha is quite the opposite. Freezing even when wearing multiple layers, microfibers, and so on. And their differences exist in their personalities as well. As Ember, much like her personality, is hot-headed, fiery, aggressive, unforgiving, passionate, extreme, and a little bit of a bully. Meanwhile, Aspen Cha is much more chill, forgiving, calm, friendly, but insecure, a bit of a coward and shy. These two are so incredibly painstakingly different, it's hard to find two people who are more different. In fact, at first they did not get along, as Ember bullied, Amber or Ember? It should be Ember, but as Ember has bullied Aspen. And if it was anyone else, they definitely wouldn't have gotten along. But Aspen understands Ember's struggles. He understands that her temperature causes her problems, and understands that her life isn't the easiest. Like his own life. Even though they've lived incredibly different lives, we see how difficult it is for both of them. Now there's a reason why I like opposites attract romances. And it's not just because I think it's cute that two people who are so different get together. Granted, that is a reason. But another big reason is because of the people. Relationships are weird. There's no correct relationship. But I think one thing is clear. That no matter who you are, you're not going to be perfect going into it. You're not going to be perfect in it. And you're not going to be perfect after a relationship. As we're imperfect people. Both Aspen and Ember have admirable traits, but they also have flaws. And that makes sense. But what makes their relationship interesting is how these two change each other. We hear that while hanging out with Aspen, Ember has become more forgiving and friendly. Meanwhile, Aspen grows more confident, standing up for his beliefs and morals. I like the opposites attract romance because of how the relationship affects the people in it. They grow, they change, they become better and more like their partners, wanting to be more like their partner's best qualities and want their partners to become better. They encourage each other, and that's what relationships are, the people and their growth. And there are too many romance webtoon series that promote that idea. Like I said, about 36% of the webtoons I read are romance, and I can go through a ton of relationships. Like the ones in Age Matters, Suitor Armor, Castle Swimmers, To Love Your Enemy, Dating with a Tail, Or if you like Canvas webtoons, then maybe Cupcake and Bear, Lord Have Mercy, Bad Love, Easy Love, and so on. There are many relationships and romance webtoons. And there are a lot of relationships that I want to talk about. But I kind of struggle choosing a webtoon to finish this video off with. I kind of wanted to do Miss Abbott and the Doctor, but that has become a Daily Pass series and is another opposite attract relationship. Meanwhile, I wanted to save other webtoon series for my other videos. So I decided to end it off with Devil Number 4, a webtoon that's actually done with its main story. The general idea of Devil Number 4 is that there are actual devils and angels. And like in a lot of media, you can actually make a deal with the devil. Our main character, Hana, lives a pretty bad life. However, she's content and doesn't really have any wishes. So when our Devil Number 4, that's who he is, he doesn't have a name, wants to make a deal, she declines. Even when living an awful life in an awful house with an awful job, she's happy to live the life she is. And doesn't want anything. Which completely stumps Number 4 over here. The point is that they eventually start hanging out with each other more, as Number 4 tries to get her to sign a contract and Hana doesn't really want anything. But they eventually do grow close to each other. Hana feels safe and free around Number 4. Meanwhile, Number 4 starts to soften up. Eventually they do fall in love. And after a lot of time, difficulties, struggles, a strange amount of death and resurrections, we get the line I wanted to end this video with. Is it possible to love just one person across time and space? What should we call this feeling that is attracting each other stronger than a forced contract? The most primal and beautiful feeling in the world. The answer to that question is dependent on who you are, your experiences, your thoughts, and your morals, really. I think I know my answer, but do you know yours? I'd love to hear it if you do feel like you know the answer. But that's all for today. So like always, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you next week.